I swear that Zoom changes them around for me. Ah, yes, these are my Valentine's Day gifts for myself. And then I got a dog on top of it. I'm like, okay, each year I'm just going to stack it up. Yeah, he's a good puppy. Okay, where is my slides? There we go. And I'm recording. Good morning, ladies. We are on Wednesday. This has been so amazing so far. Kerry and I were talking about how the week's been going. I was looking forward to it. I had a feeling it would be great. Last year was really, really great, but it's been phenomenal. You guys are a really great group. Adriana was saying how much she appreciated how engaged everybody is. Anyone who's done any of these, you know that sometimes you can feel like you're like talking to a blank wall. So when you have a beautiful group of people who are engaged and generally present with you, it makes all of the difference. So I have to thank all of you who have been here and the way you've been showing up. You are the other half of this equation. So this is our third day. We are in the Fall in Love with Your Business Again challenge. We're going 5 days, every day this week, 9 to 10. We're coming together and we're tackling some of these common challenges we face as business owners. It's part of the job. And one of the pieces that I really found in my own journey is the more I proactively come at these and I decide how I'm going to relate to these struggles, the easier business has gone and the more my business has grown. So that's a huge part of what I want to give you guys this week. All of these women have been part of my own journey, or they teach things that have been part of my journey. So I want to be able to give you guys these seeds as we go into the spring. You have these beautiful reframes to tackle your businesses with. Same format as the last 2 days. I'll do a little intro and then we'll kick it off to Kerry and she'll give us her magic. The landing page is up. The links are up there. I know the email link today might not have been accurate. These links will work if we need a backup. I'm all about plan A, B, C, D. As a single mom, you get very, very prepared. Links are always here. Replays are up here. Website links to any of the guests, anybody you want to get to know better, they're all up here. Really nice and organized. That is my jam. Our theme this week is the power of the reframe and coming into a space of agency and empowerment. These challenges around networking, I have personally very much struggled with networking as a introvert like Kerry, and just as someone who is sometimes a little more authentic than I should be. If we're going into some circles, I have to like learn that skill set. Networking, money. Anybody who was here yesterday with Adriana, the way she reframes your relationship with money and pricing and profitability is brilliant. Connecting with yourself, connecting with others, the type of business support you bring in, so much of it is an emotional experience. All of these reframes will help you grow as a business owner because you're investing in yourself, which is my next little point. This is my big reframe for everyone. I am 6 years into this. I have gone from $350 a month in business revenue. Now I'm generally above 10K in profit a month. It has not been because I invested in fancy websites or fancy branding. And I'm a marketer telling you this. It has been because I invested in these things that helped me grow as a person. Business is such a personal experience and it's such a personal opportunity to expand and to grow. And the support you need to do that is investing in yourself in whatever way that looks like. Sometimes we have money resources to do that. Sometimes we're reading books. Sometimes we're coming to free events like this. Just really focus on knowing that it's not a waste of time. It's actually a really, really smart investment. Everybody I know who has grown in business, they've gone through a very similar process. Sometimes we want to really focus on the practical and we bypass this, especially as women. We're trying to serve our business, but it's like putting on your own oxygen mask, as they say, as a caregiver. It's the same thing. You have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of your business. We'll go through what we've done this week so far and what we have coming up, and then I will kick it off to Kerry. Monday was Jackie and her beautiful women's circle. She just like, it's a magical experience with Jackie every single time. If you like that, she's got circles coming up. They're drop-in. They're very low cost. She keeps them very accessible. She has some really cool programs she's working on as well for anyone that wants to invest further. And she gave us that discount code for anyone that wants to use that. I'm signed up for her circle. I'm really excited for it. I'm glad that she's kicked them off again. I know a few of us have been in there before, and then we're probably all like, yes, please, Jackie, open them up again. They've been great. Yesterday was Adriana. I know that was so much fun. She has such a great energy. Every time I'm in a room with that woman, I'm just like, oh, you are incredible. And I'm so grateful to share any space with you. And the way she talked to us about pricing and profitability, I'm so happy she brought that message to you. It's exactly what I see in my own business. It's what I teach in my programs. Our personal worth and our pricing are very separate. A lot of the times we get mixed up where we're trying to combine those and it gets really muddy and very confusing and we get stalled. When we can separate them is when we're able to get clarity around that. If that is a struggle for you, or if it's a place you're growing, definitely catch that replay if you weren't here yesterday. Today, Kerry is going to talk to us about building our authentic business circle. My own journey as a businesswoman and as a person really has been very grounded in being in containers Kerry creates. I have been part of a mastermind with her for, I think, like the last 4 or 5 years straight. This is my 7th, I believe, weekend and Fresh Idea Collective. The way she brings people together and helps people connect in a way that is authentic and genuine is so incredibly powerful. Some of my best friends are from masterminds I've been in with Kerry. It's just such a difference from some of those other business events you can go to that feels very, they can feel a little icky and we can feel a little out of place. Kerry's really figured out how you can approach this and how you can go into these type of activities in a way that's genuine and authentic. Really excited to hear what she has to say today. She always presents so well. I take notes on how she presents so I can be a better presenter myself. Chelsea and Thursday, we have Marta. She's going to be going into some of the inner parts of this process. Quite often, if there's something we're coming up against in business and we just can't seem to move forward, it's not a matter of getting more information on how to do it. That's usually something we can find. There's usually something inside. There's some kind of limiting belief. There's some kind of block that's really getting in the way. Marta's going to give us a chance to kind of see how we can move through some of those so that we can move into action and implementation. This is so true. It does not matter how much I'm a very cognitive person and I'm an intellectualizer by nature. You can have, as like Hadriana said yesterday, you can have as much information in your head as you want, but if you have a block, you won't be able to apply it. Really important part of business growth. And Friday, Michelle's going to wrap it all up for us. She's going to give us some very practical tools to help us with stress management, nervous system regulation. There's no such thing as getting out of stress in business. It's the beauty of the game that it is. It's a high risk. It takes a certain kind of personality to take it on, but it means to balance that out. We want to have a really strong tool set. We want to know how we can bring ourselves down after we have one of those really tense conversations or someone's gotten under our skin or things didn't go how we thought they would. So Michelle's going to really help us understand what we can do when we hit those kind of situations. And she's going to teach us some EFT tapping, which really fun. I like it. Some people are like, whoa, this was cool. I wasn't expecting it. It's an experience to go through. And Michelle's really, really good at it. It's not easy to create it for a group of people. And she has a really great skill set with that. So that's our week. I'm going to kick it off to Kerry now. And Kerry is going to talk to us about how to build your authentic business circle. She has masterminds that you can join. I follow Kerry everywhere I can. And if connecting with people like this is part of your vibe, definitely look into what Kerry has to offer. I'll unspotlight myself, and then I'll spotlight Kerry. Here we go. It's all yours.
Awesome. All right. So hopefully screens are coming into view. Give me a thumbs up if you see something appearing on your screen. We're all good to go. Thank you so much, Cheyenne. This is such an exciting week. I love how you have created this container for your people. And just looking at the lineup, I'm like, 4 of those 5 have been in masterminds with me already. And Hadriana, I hired last year to be a keynote speaker for my full day Passion to Profit event here in the Stratford area. And I could not be more thrilled with the community that you are gathering around you. And this topic today is, I love it. And so when Cheyenne asked me to speak and told me what the theme was, right away I knew I wanted to talk about reframing networking, because this is something I had to do for myself, as you'll hear as we're going today. So we're really going to talk about growing that authentic business circle with ease. And hey, you're doing it right now. If this feels easy to you, guess what? This is networking. And so just on that point, if anybody wants to put in the Zoom chat what their business is, where they're connecting from, if you want to put any kind of a link to your business, let's use this as a networking opportunity today, just to demonstrate that this is how easy it works. I know many of you on the call. I don't know all of you, but I know that many of you are from different cities. And so this is a great chance for you to meet someone who's outside of your location where you are right now. And while you're doing that, I'll just say, hello, I'm an introvert who plans networking events for women. Like Cheyenne, I would rather be home with a good book and my feet up than go out at night to an in-person event. And, you know, spoiler alert, I plan those events now. But for a long time, I avoided networking. Sometimes I was forced into it because of my career and because of my job. And over time, I just grew to love to hate networking. And I don't know if anyone here feels like that, but if you do, you know, let us know in the Zoom chat as well. Just, you know, let us know, love it, hate it. And so what I've actually grown and evolved into now is, you know, for the past 20 years, as many of you know, I've been a champion of women entrepreneurs. I'm a longtime connector, coach, and mentor, not just through Queen's University, and a lot of you know me through the programs we offer there, but also through my business, Fresh Idea Collective. And so now I'm a networking event organizer. On a monthly basis, we plan monthly event, in-person events for women entrepreneurs, and they are created through the lens of an introvert. And so that's why I love to do it. It's kind of crazy to even think that I'm doing this now because I avoided networking for so long. But today I'm hoping to establish the fact that we can reframe networking, and it's not just for extroverts. And in fact, it's a vital business activity. If we are not becoming visible, all right. And so I coach a lot of women. It's been over 800 women I've coached at this point. I totaled it up last year. And I will say the vast majority of those women prefer to be invisible. And I have to really get through talking about blocks, right, Cheyenne? There's a block we have about getting visible, being the face of our business, and doing that in a networking scenario is one of the ways that we can be visible and let people know we have a business. All right, so thanks for those who are connecting in the Zoom chat. What I would love is that if you could let me know what words or emotions come up when I say the word networking, because, you know, there are probably 3 general reactions. Either you love them, you love networking, you hate networking, or you have a middle of the road, meh. I've been to networking events and meh, right? I don't know why I went, you know, wasn't great, wasn't terrible. So let me know in the Zoom chat to let me know what your responses are to this idea and concept of networking. And I know that many of you do it. It's okay to say if you love it, if you hate it. It's so funny that Tiz says, I don't have the clothes for networking. I have someone else, and it's probably not just 1 or 2. She said to me, she said, I love coming to your events because I can just come as I am. It's not like I feel like I'm showing up and I'll be judged. It's like, come as you are, be who you are, because that's what authentic networking is. It's not, and yes, sometimes we get dressed up because it's in a fancy location. I get that. But you know, we want to be who we are. So Kat says it's exhausting. Yes, absolutely, especially for us introverts. Wendy's saying that she likes networking, but not so much getting there, right? And actually I had someone yesterday that was commenting that she was responding to an event I had, and I said, how did it go? Did you enjoy it? And she said, you know what? Half the time I just fingers crossed that the event is canceled and I don't have to go. But then once I get there, I'm so excited. So it's like this mental block that sometimes we have when it comes. So thanks for those who are sharing in the Zoom chat. These are so good. And so our goal today is, as Cheyenne mentioned, it's reframing. It's to reframe networking as a genuine process that builds authentic connections. And ultimately, it's not just about business. Spoiler alert, it's about our own personal growth as well, right? Anytime that we can set aside or conquer these mental blocks and get visible and yes, establish ourselves as authorities in our field and the leader of our business, but more so, we step into leadership. We step into who we are and owning that. And I think that's the power of showing up to networking events. Okay, so how many people are with me that maybe you have had a traditional networking experience? And this may be, for some of you, why you felt judged. Somebody used the word judge. I think it was Vanessa in there. Or you just felt not comfortable. And so it depends a lot on who's in charge, frankly, the time of day, and for women, this makes a difference, meetup spaces and activities. And so traditionally, when I said I I was forced in some cases because of my job. It was like, Kerry, you will go to these events and you will network and you will get the word out, right? And so who was in charge? It tended to be the same types of people, that were in charge of those events. Typically they didn't have kids, or if they did, they weren't in charge of them. After work, they could just take the night off. And so what I found was not only who was in charge, mattered, but the time of day that these are set up. So I love Rotary. I'm just going to say I love Rotary, but I was invited to join Breakfast Rotary. Okay, Breakfast Rotary starts at 7:30 in the morning. I had 2 kids under the age of 6 at the time. So do you know how time I had to get up for Breakfast Rotary, which was, yes, it's a service club, but it's a networking, there are networking event every week. I had to get up about 5 in order to get myself together, get those kids up. I am married, but my husband and I had to juggle who was taking them to daycare. Like 7:30 was not working for me. I'm not a big breakfast networker. So that wasn't working for me. And then, of course, there was the other events that were not just after work, because my events are largely after work, but they would go till 10, 11 o'clock at night on a work night. I'm like, what is this about? Who does this? Do people not get up in the morning, right? And here's me getting up with 2 kids. So time of day was not working for me for many networking events. Then let's talk about the meetup spaces, and raise your hand if you've been to networking events, and they're basically in bars, right? I can't tell you how many networking events I went to. Not only were they in bars, so they were co-ed, and I have nothing against men. I say this all the time. I've been married to a wonderful man for almost 29 years. But when I am networking, I don't want there to be blurry lines as to what we are doing in this context. And that was coming up over and over again. The time of day plus the setting equaled confusion a lot of times. And especially in those co-ed and sometimes, same ed type of situations, it can get a little bit confusing. I'm just being open and honest about my networking experiences and why I was turned off. Fourthly, I should say, the activities. It basically was who could pass out as many business cards as possible at the end of the night. It was, stand up, type of scenarios where I just was not feeling this was the type of networking for me. And so I'm seeing in the Zoom chat as well that there's, some people that have had some similar experiences, or they just have that ick factor. And I know that Cheyenne likes to use that word too. And that's something that resonates with me. Okay, so let's move rather now into this new age, what I would call authentic networking. So who's in charge? We want to really be paying attention to events that have, a variety perhaps of organizers, or that are organized for our particular group. So I love to see diversity when I am attending events, which I'll talk about a little bit later. The time of day, it just has to work for my schedule. I mean, this is why we look for events that match up, right? That the meetup spaces are safe for women, because that's who I serve. That they are, we're not all crushed into the same room. We have some space to breathe, and introverts have some spaces to escape to, ideally, if they need to. And then finally, the activities are kind of not just let's walk into a room and talk to each other, but there's something that's an activity we are doing together that breaks the ice. I put a picture of a goat there only because I'm currently planning our July event, which is goat yoga. And I'm very excited for that. I've done goat yoga before with networking groups. It's a lot of fun. So again, through the eyes of an introvert as well, introverts tend to not enjoy events where they just show up and then they have to just awkwardly start conversations, giving them things to do. So this month, in a couple of weeks, we have our networking event is at a pottery studio. So we're going to be making pottery. So this is, these are activities that we are able then to infuse, and the conversation flows naturally. Okay, so what we're doing then, as we're reframing networking, is we're moving from these superficial relationships where, as some people said, we feel judged, right? We have to show up with the best outfit, or if our hair is not just so, we will be relegated to the corner. I don't know what we think what will happen, but of course, they're usually false ideas. The pressure to sell is at the core of the networking event. And then there's that lack of long-term value. I get your business card. Now what, right? So that's what I have loved moving away from. And then more towards this idea of building meaningful, supportive, and trust-based connections. Whoops, I didn't need to do that. And so this is where I think I have landed as an event organizer, not just of the meetups that I organize, but the masterminds as well, because masterminds, as Cheyenne mentioned, are containers of 10 women plus myself as the facilitator. Those are micro communities of, I would say, just networking on crack. They are just like, it is like you are in it to win it together, right? And you're not alone. So trust-based, all sorts of ways that we can connect, and they don't necessarily just have to be the traditional ways. All right, so this is interactive. I know we've got an interactive group. I do want to ask you this question. I want you to think of a networking experience that felt truly authentic to you. So some of you have you're like, I haven't been to a networking event. Well, today is. So if you've been to this type of event, this is also networking. If you've taken the opportunity to be visible, which many of you have, either I can see you or in the Zoom chat, you've introduced yourself and your business. Think about what makes a networking event authentic to you and what sets it apart from others. And I just want to go to the Zoom chat as well and see what we got. So great to see so many familiar faces. Ah. Okay, so Jackie's like, yeah, this type of event, absolutely. All of these ones this week have felt. Yes, absolutely. What has come up for you? So it's that sense of connection, Rebecca says. Jackie is saying these feelings of vulnerability, that we can feel vulnerable and not, feel like we'll be judged for it. That fear of judgment is so core here. I think it's Wendy. Yeah, Wendy is saying the weekend events. So those are the ones through Queen's University that we're able to connect. April is saying questions and discussion topics to chat about with your table. Yeah, absolutely. What if you actually were guided in networking, right? We didn't have to come up with it all. Tiz is saying this week as well. All sorts of it. Okay, good. I want that to be bubbling and brewing in your mind as we are thinking then about the types of events that we want to attend, or the types of networking containers that we want to be a part of. The beautiful thing is we have agency. We have choices, right? And so I want to also get you to think about, I'm wearing the same jacket. I'm wearing this picture. That's so funny. As an event organizer, these are some things that I try to keep in mind, but these are things that you might have noticed at your own events. And here's the challenge today as well. I want some of you to start creating some of your own events. All right. So spoiler alert, I'll go into that a little later. Sometimes it's like Margaret Atwood said, if you can't find the book you want to read, write it. Right. And so that's the same idea. So if you haven't yet found networking containers, networking opportunities that work for you, but you're like, boy, I wish someone would do this. You know what? That's your signal that you are that person to do it. Why not create it? Cheyenne has been very bold to create this week. And I haven't seen a week like this type of a container. I love it. This is unique to what she is doing. And clearly it's working and having an impact. What might you do? Okay, so when you think about the events you attend, or maybe even the types of networking scenarios you want to introduce to your customers and clients, I want to start with purpose. Know why you're gathering. If you're attending, know why you're attending. To me, it's not just like showing up and wondering why I walk away unfulfilled, or did I walk into the room with an intention? That's a question. Like, that's on us. Why are we showing up? And if we show up with purpose, then we can usually, it's kind of like what you get out of it is what you put into it. Okay, so think about that as an organizer or attendee. Same thing with room setup, right? So I attended 2 events in my local area recently. One, I walked in and the room was all set up in rows, and we listened to a speaker at the front of the room. And the other was I walked into the room and they were all round tables where we sat and we faced each other. So those are 2 very different messages that you're getting in a networking scenario. One is, and I understand, sometimes the room is configured because that's how we could fit everybody in. But is that a networking opportunity? Not necessarily, if we're all in rows, right? We're there to listen and to be spoken to. Now, thankfully, there was some integration of activities, so that helped, but it was very awkward in a row scenario. So if you're setting up or a part of, take a look at how can you configure yourself. Is there a round table? Is there a spot where you can be with 2 or 3 people and it's a natural conversation corner, if you will? And look at that, whether you are setting up the event or a part of it. Name tags is something I believe in. Again, I just attended an event last month. There was no name tags. There must have been 100 people in the room and we had no name tags. I'm like, I don't know who these people are. And at the end of the day, they're not going to know my first name either. Name tags are ways to personalize. And if you have the choice in an event, please do put on a name tag, right? Sometimes we get worried about what it looks like with our outfit. Doesn't matter. Like, just put it on, because you are suddenly then a part and entering into that personal connection, and people are more apt to remember your name as well. Activities, get involved with those activities, whatever they might be. And if you are planning an event, think of ways to integrate your people together, whether, like April said, it's conversation topics that you suggest, or some hands-on activities, as we love to do. Representation. I pay attention to events that have representative leaders. And what I mean by that is equity, diversity, and inclusion. That matters to me. I want to support and be a part of those types of events. And you've had that event this week as well. Not only that, as an event planner, I want to plan those types of events so people can see themselves in my panels. They can see themselves in the speakers and in the things that we do. Finally, food and beverage. What a silly thing for networking, but food brings people together. We know that. We know that, like, when we think about major holidays, what do? We're planning the meals. Why? Because that's a way that we bring people together. So these little parts of networking events are so small, and yet they're so impactful, whether you're an attendee or you're planning. And I took the time there because I hope that some of you will become event planners. All right. So I want to move on here to sort of this idea of authentic networking then. What are some of the key characteristics? It's not just about talking. It's not just about spouting your elevator pitch, which I know for decades that was ingrained in us. Show up with your elevator pitch, show up with your... Now I'm like, show up curious and ready to listen. Like, that is now my advice to people. Sure, know what you do, but show up ready to have have a genuine interest in other people. Some of you may remember Iris Apfel. She's passed on now, but she was the world's oldest teenager, they called her, and she was a fashion icon out of New York City. And she said that's something that I've never forget, which is that you have to be interested to be interesting. If you are not interested in other people, you are not interesting to them, right? Because people want to feel like you see them and hear them. And this is a part of networking, showing up and doing that deep listening. Focusing on that mutual growth, not just self-promotion. I find that women don't struggle with this as much, honestly. Sometimes we struggle to self-promote. I think it's a balance, right? I think we have to have both. We have to know what we do and be ready to talk about it, but also looking for ways that we can have mutual growth among the group, whoever's there. And finally, this idea, and we've heard it before, of being collaborative, not competitive. I'm doing a lot of reading right now on female rivalry, and it is rocking my world as to why women are so competitive, right? And I'm not talking here, my events are not co-ed, they're for women entrepreneurs. And there is, if you take a look, there's all sorts of studies, goes back to the fact that women used to have to rely on men for their status, for their income. Unless they were married, they did not, have support. They literally could not survive. So what happened is we fell into this beauty, trap where we have to, there is no men's beauty industry. Can we just pause for a minute and realize that? Like, that blew my mind. Yeah, like 1% might be for men's beauty, but this women's beauty thing persists today. We compete on a beautiful level. We talked about it in the Zoom chat, feeling judged for what we wear. What guy shows up at a networking event worrying about what he wears? Like, we have to understand the social context and the blocks that we are bringing with us that are centuries old, right? Anyways, got to get off that. Collaborative versus competitive. Let's show up, let's be our whole self and realize that we have something to offer and there are collaborators in the room. Let's reframe how we're looking at women who are at the events we're at. All right, so that's another part, I think, of reframing networking. All right, I'm going to pause here just for a moment to zip into the Zoom chat. Oh, I love it. So people are saying what they enjoyed at these different events. I love this. Fantastic. Okay, goodie bags. That's so fun. I'm gonna take a pause. Hold on. All right, so I've got just three simple networking strategies, things to think about if you're looking to create authentic connections. The first is conversations versus transactions. And so conversation to me is the kingpin, the queen pin, let me put it that way, of a successful networking event. If we're not in conversation, it's really hard to develop connections, which turn into contacts, which turn into collaborations and all the other things we're hoping. It starts with a conversation. So at Fresh Idea Collective, when I host my events, it says right on the sign that the sandwich board that's out front of any venue that we have, it says sparking conversations. Like we want to spark those conversations and get that conversation started. So here's a tip I have for you. And this was a game changer for me when I realized it. And that is that we have to have better conversations. And so some of us are stuck in, I don't know how to start a conversation. I don't know what to say. Let me just say that, first of all, I think one of the best ways is to ask better questions. Sometimes we get a little lazy in this department. I want us all to just bump up our networking game today. Is that okay? I think that's why we showed up. And so asking better questions, think about like, what do you say when you go to these events? Do you plan out? Like we plan our elevator pitch, but do we plan questions that we're going to ask other people? One of my favorite questions, and it's so simple, it doesn't have to be complicated, but rather than saying, hi, I'm Kerry, what do you do? Right? Which is usually what we say, what do you do? And it's a genuine question. I've changed that question up a little bit to say, hi, I'm Kerry, what's lighting you up in your business right now? Because I know I'm at an event and they have businesses. What's lighting you up? I will tell you that their faces just brighten as soon as I say that, and they launch into the thing that is exciting them at that moment. And sometimes people, frankly, get tired of talking about what they do, but they don't get tired about talking what lights them up, what brings them joy. You can ask it however you want. But let's just think of some better questions to start off with. And these are things that, I mean, I've coached people on this who have, a fear of networking. And also in masterminds, it comes up, we talk about these different ways that we can engage better. It's intentional. It's not a magical formula. It takes some time. So this is just one thing to think about, asking better questions. We already talked about be genuinely interested. Be present in the moment. How many of you have been to a networking event and you're talking to someone? Honestly, I don't find this happens as much with women as it does with men. But they're talking to me and suddenly I see their eyes go across my shoulder and they're looking around the room. It's like, are they looking for the next interesting person? And they're not present with me in that conversation. And it's a real turnoff in terms of like, I'm here. I'm engaged in this conversation. Do you, and basically I shut down the conversation when I see that that's happening. I'm like, oh, have a great event. I'll see you. Like, I'm not interested in being in conversation with someone who can't be present with me in that moment. Now let's pause. My ADHD wonderful women in this room, because there are ADHD. I understand that ADHD does cause us to squirrel, but to the best of your ability, eye contact is one of those things, being engaged. And if all you can handle are short conversations, just go there prepared to do that. You don't have to go in depth. Plus a bonus tip. Okay, this is controversial. I'm going to say it anyways. I don't think that alcohol makes this more interesting. All right. In fact, and I've had women who, because I do a lot of events, and for the most part, they don't have alcohol. The reason is, well, there's a liability issue for one thing. But secondly, people rely on alcohol. They think that it makes them more interesting. And in fact, it does the opposite. It takes us into some other state of not authentic being. Okay. It's not us. It's a version of us. And I've had some people say, oh my gosh, I need wine to relax at a networking event. I'm like, let's just pause and listen to that statement. Do we really need that? Or can we show up and be ourselves and be okay with who we are? And yeah, don't get me wrong, people love wine. I have nothing against drinking or alcohol. But when we want to have better conversations, that's what we're talking about right now. I want to challenge you to think about, can I do this, right? And how can I do this to the best of my ability, authentically in a way that makes me memorable for the right reasons? And I have hosted a lot of events, and let's just say I have seen a lot of things. And I sometimes shake my head. I'm like, I'm not sure that that was the impression that person wanted to give to the room, right? And yet that's the one we left with. So, just some ideas here. Maybe there's only one thing that's an aha moment here, and that's okay. Take the best, leave the rest. That's what I always say. You know, that's what I say in all of my trainings. All right, strategy number 2 then. Shifting from what can I get to what can I give. This is just a simple shift. It's one that, again, I wonder if women almost, are looking to give all the time and not asking enough for what they need. But in a networking scenario, we are taught and trained that this is why you go to networking, so that you can get leads, so that you can get business, so that you can get money. And yes, all of that you can get from a networking event. I just went to one a couple of weeks ago. I was mentioning this on Sunday night when I was doing my online workshop. And I had 2 conversations with clients who came up to me. So I was there, I talked to a lot of people, but 2 people came up to me and said, I've been meaning to reach out. I need to get that thing that you had on sale. And within 24 hours, that money was in the bank for both of those conversations. So 2 things. Had I not shown up to the networking event, they wouldn't have seen me, and it triggered, oh, I need to get the thing. And secondly, had I not followed up, also, I would not have gotten the sales. But, that's the shift of, okay, so what you can get, yes, you are going to get payoffs from networking events, but also what can you give? So let me ask you, what is something that you have to give at a networking event? What comes to mind when I say those words? Because some people might be like, I'm not sure. What is it that I could give? Oh, I love it. Yeah, Karu is saying you should drink tea, not alcohol at networking events. That's good. She owns a tea shop. You should do that. What is the thing you have to give? Maybe you have lived in your city for generations, or maybe for decades, and you know everybody, right? I just moved to a new area. I've been here 2.5 years. I knew one person when I moved here. So I was really reliant on people at networking events who would say, Kerry, you know who you need to meet? You need to meet this person. And I was so grateful to those people at networking events who shared their connections. I want to just go to the Zoom chat, see what you guys are coming up with. What else can we share? Some advice, yeah, after listening to what maybe they have framed as a concern. I love it. Local recommendations, absolutely. Yep. Kat saying grounding. When I speak with women, I just help ground them. I love that. Maybe it's even that listening ear, right? I can be a listener. Someone mentioned I can be an ally. I love this. What can we give at events? And it's then this give and this take, which also, by the way, is similar to a conversation. It's a 2-way street. It's not just one way. We're engaged, we're in it, we're present, and all of those qualities, I think, that makes such a difference. So the third strategy is simply quality over quantity. Now, there are certain industries, and I don't know everyone on the call, so I don't know if you're in one of these industries, but there are certain industries that you almost have a quota of the number of networking events you need to attend. And I understand why. It's because high volume, high sales. I'm going to use this example, and I have many who come to my events, and I love every single one of them dearly. My real estate agents are an example that they are constantly looking for pipeline, and they are some of the sweetest people, so don't take me wrong. I still want them to come to my events. But the fact is they attend a lot of events. And I've had some of them say to me, Kerry, this event is actually one where I leave and I get something out of it. So they're like, sometimes I just go and I don't know. I just go because I have to have a quota to fill or a number that I feel I need to go to. I want us to shift that thinking and reframe that to quality over quantity. And I think it speaks for itself, but it kind of, the onus is on us to do a bit of research before we attend an event or get into a mastermind or another container such as this. And so what are some of the factors that you consider before showing up, even like you showed up today? And one thing I will say is I believe that the leader matters. I believe that the leader of this group, who is Cheyenne in this case, has inspired you. And you're like, some people, I know how this works. You will show up for whatever Cheyenne puts out there. I know that, right? I know, because we trust the leader. And so that quality of the container or the event is likely going to be dependent on the quality of that leader. We need to pay attention to who is leading this event that I'm considering going to, who's in charge. So that's one aspect of, what would make a quality event. What are some other things for you that would be a quality enhancer for an event? Yeah, I love that. Yeah, knowing who is in charge. That's a big one for us. That's a big one. How about who's going to be at the event, right? Who does this person curate? Curation is a talent. It is a gift. There's a great book. I see someone was talking about books that we recommend. The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker changed my life. It changed my life. I read it at the time where I was hosting my first events, which was Hello Boss Girl back in the day in Belleville when I first started. I read that book. I realized that was the kind of event organizer I wanted to be. That's how I wanted to curate and bring people together. Not in a curating way like, I'm going to have the prettiest people in the room. I'm going to have the richest people. No, curating people who are there for the same purpose, right? So it's curating around purpose. And so that for me is important to know what the purpose of the event is, as well as who are the people that are going to be at the event. These are the types of people that I would love to engage with further. So think about, as you are choosing and thinking around this, the quality over quantity question. I think it will help to be a really great strategy for you in your networking journey. Okay, great. So then we've talked about these elements, right? What does your ideal networking event look like? So let's answer these questions one at a time. We'll probably come off of mute here shortly just to take some general comments as well. Who's in charge of your ideal networking event? There's no right or wrong answers. This is for you. I want you to reflect so that you start showing up at the right spaces, all right, in the right scenarios. Who is in charge of you don't need to give me a name. I am not going to be offended if you say, do not say my name, because that's not what I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay, so think about who is in charge. I saw up top somebody said, I'd like to attend women events led by women. And it's not to say I don't attend, by the way, events planned by men. I do. I absolutely do. I'm not going to, limit myself in that way. But which are the ones that, get me excited? Think about who is in charge. Secondly, I want you to ask yourself this. What time of day works for you? Is this 9 to 10? Is this a sweet spot? Like, if you could attend an event, what time of day? Is it over the lunch hour? Is it 5 to 7? Is it 6:30? Like, just like be honest about the time of day, because whether it's a mastermind, whether it's an event, we have schedules. And sometimes we try to fit ourselves into everyone else's schedules. And part of what I'm getting at here is you can create your own events, right? You can create containers. And I want some of us to step into those leadership things. So Ashley is saying during school hours. I love it, right? How many networking events take place during school hours? A big fat zero in most cases, except for today and, some masterminds that are over the lunch hour, etc. So Wendy's saying, I'd like to plan an event in Kingston, an in-person event. Love that. Yes, I love it, because this is when we start to imagine our ideal event, we realize that we're the right person to do it, right? Meetup spaces. Okay, let me throw that out. What would be some cool spaces that you would like to show up to and have an event in those spaces, whether it's no matter what kind of conversations you're having. I love that space, by the way, right there. Whatever that space is, that's where I want to go. I wish it was in my community. I'm not sure where it is. I have, yes, libraries. Me too. Absolutely. Yoga, health spas. Yes. Yeah. Just beautiful spaces, right, that light us up. I do my events in women-owned spaces for the most part. I think 99% of them are women-owned spaces. That kind of speaks to what I'm trying to achieve, is that we're supporting women as we're holding our events. So we've had them in roller skating studios and in pottery, studios, as we're going to do later this month. We've had them in yoga studios, in farmyards. I've done them pretty much anywhere. Think about the spaces that are exciting to you to show up on. Love it. Okay. And finally, what types of activities would you like to see at networking events you attend? And don't get me wrong, maybe some of you just want to show up and have conversations because maybe you're extroverts. My introverts, I have a feeling they might need a little bit more to get them out of the house on a dark winter's night or during the day. So thinking about what are those activities, what lights you up? Paint pouring, yes, absolutely, I love it. one of my first, well, my very first event was a business book club because I'm an introvert and I like books. I also like business. And I was like, what if I just combine those? That was my very first event, was at Bourbon and Bean, downtown Belleville. And we packed the place out. Why? Because when I sort of said, I'm thinking of doing this thing, I had other people who also like business books who came to the event, right? And that's part of when you put yourself out, you just never know who else is looking for the same type of a networking event. All right. So I'm keeping my eye on that on the Zoom chat as well. Thanks so much for engaging there. I think that's fabulous. Okay. That leads to this. You thought you were going to attend a workshop today where I was going to tell you that you just got to get better at networking, and here's how to be better at networking, and let's reframe networking. It is partly that. But if we were to radically reframe networking, I would in fact encourage you to create a connection opportunity for your clients or customers and not wait for someone else to do it. So how? And Wendy already put in there. She already gave an idea. Sorry, I haven't been following super closely on that Zoom chat. But, you know, how could you create a connection opportunity for your clients or customers? Cheyenne has created this container along with others. Yeah, Wendy's saying Pedalworks. And by the way, if you're involved with our Queens community, that's where our June event is going to be held. I'm very excited. It's going to be at Pedalworks Cafe with Martha Williams. So watch for that. Not till June, but that will be our next in-person event. What type of a connection opportunity? Now, I realize this is more of a thinking question. I'm not going to ask you to spill it all into the Zoom chat right here. But I think that part of us becoming excellent at networking requires us sometimes to step up and create our own spaces. Here's the thing, especially my super introverts. You're like, I will never do that, Kerry. I will never stand at the front of the room. So here's my challenge to you. What if you could find someone to co-host that event with? What if you could grab a friend of yours who's an extrovert and say, I want to do this thing. You and I are aligned. We're both in business. I think if we put this thing together, this would be awesome. I have a client who was just in our last mastermind, and she emailed me last night. Actually, it was very late at night. I have to ask her why she was up so late at night. But she is a yoga. She does yoga. She teaches yoga. And she, during the mastermind, said, I want to co-host an event. And so we brainstormed and we came up with this idea of what if you could find a sommelier who would, do a wine tasting and yoga. She just told me last night that event is now live. She's now selling tickets for that. It's a networking event for her because she's going to be teaching and people will get to know about her event, but she's not doing it on her own. She's co-hosting it with a venue that also has a sommelier. So, you know what? Sky's the limit here. I want to encourage you today to dream and to think beyond the traditional way of networking, because that's what I did. And that's what has really worked for me in my business. So I encourage you to think about it. One of the final things to think about here, whether you're creating a networking event or you're just attending, it goes back to that thing I mentioned about what's the purpose of you attending a networking event? Do you know why you're showing up? And so this might be something you do today. And then, and again, if you don't do it on the call, you probably won't do it. So if you have a notebook, I encourage you to say, if you could create a set of networking metrics for yourself so that you would know after that event, when you leave, that was a successful event for me, or that was not a successful event and I probably won't go back, or maybe I'll give it one more try, or I don't know. What would that metric be? And I'm curious to know, as an event planner for one thing, but what would it be? Like, that shouldn't be, too much of a stretch, because if we're in business, what are you looking to get out of these networking events? So I'll pause because I do want to see if anyone has a thought on that. What metrics? And in fact, if someone wants to come off mute, this might be an opportunity we could talk about that. Just my eyes on the time, and we're good. But if somebody wants to come off, you can come off mute and just let us know, what is that thing? Kat, do you want to, are you available to come off, and can you kind of comment to what you have put in the chat there? I'm just looking to see. Okay.
So I feel like being an introvert, it's getting myself out there. So I make myself talk to people, and 10's a lot for me. And then and even if I don't exchange business cards, I tend to maybe even just go, can I follow you and kind of start that way and support you that way? And then I get to know more about them and connect a little bit more before I even like, well, the approach is not to sell. I think for me, I realize I'm in the stage of business growth, so it's just getting out there. And I like powerhouse through a bunch of like before Christmas, like from October to December. Well, I didn't do December, so October, November, I went to a lot of events and I got exhausted. But what I was finding was near the November one, people were actually coming up to me and going, "Hey, I recognize you," and they couldn't re realize where. So it must have been because I was getting out there. So, but when I go to an event, I'm going usually because the event, whatever is going on with the event, interests me. I love the ones you're holding, Kerry. I wish you were closer because I think they're a fun way of interacting. And it's got me thinking about something I've been mulling in my back of my mind and need to make a meeting with you at some point. But I'm looking to also feel good. Do I feel good? Did I learn something? Or did it feel like a waste of my time? And if it was a waste of my time, and the alcohol thing, again, not being a drinker either and how it feels. Like if it's centered around that or an event at a location like that, like if it was called bourbon and whatever the one, I probably wouldn't go because I've had bad experiences around that. So it's one of those things that, and I want to be authentic. I feel like I want authenticity. So if there's drinking involved, I'm not going to go to an event like that.
Yeah. And I think that, thanks for that, Kat, by the way. And so yeah, that what you went through, that series of networking events, sometimes it's like not a bad thing, even just to say, these are the ones that speak to me, these are the ones that I felt that ick factor. As women, we need to pay attention to the gut feeling as well, like feeling and emotion. That is something that I 100% credit. How did that event make me feel? I mean, like that's a hard metric to measure, but it's one that like I feel great. I feel energized. I feel buzzed, or I feel like that was a waste of my time. I think those were your words that were used. And so sometimes I will say to people like again, because I plan events, I'm like, come to at least two. Like because you might come to one and just depending who you sat beside, like who knows, right? You just never know what that little factor might have been that tipped it off. But when we show up, like you said, on a consistent basis, it gets more fun because yeah, suddenly I'm not alone in the room. Suddenly I know two people and then I know five people. And so that sort of consistency is also really important to me, at least. I love that, Kat. Thanks for sharing all of those thoughts. Yep. So and the alcohol thing is well taken as well. A lot of networking events are created around that. And we know why, because people relax more. And yet, and yet that's where we'll leave it, right? So good to think. And again, I know Kat and I know Jackie, I know, Cheyenne, others on the call. I'm not looking down the whole gallery here. You create your own events. I want to challenge those of you who are doing it or are about to do it with authenticity, because when you do, here's the thing, you will draw the right people to your group. Who wants to create a group just like I would never to do these activities that I don't enjoy in spaces that I don't feel safe and I don't feel comfortable? There's no authenticity in that. But when we step into roles of leadership and we create these containers, we are able then to bring in our authentic clients and customers who will, they say your vibe attracts your tribe. I believe it's true. They will understand us, will understand them a lot more than if we were just trying to be like everyone else, right? All right, so some food for thought there when it comes to that. So I do want to open it up for questions. I know we only have 5 minutes and Cheyenne also wants to probably say something, but here is how you can get in touch with me if you're not already in touch with me. All of the traditional ways. I think there's a few of you have, of course, are already engaged with me. But thank you so much for listening, because I think it's important that we talk about these things. And thanks to Cheyenne for creating the container where we could do this. And yes, I'm flying my Canadian flag everywhere these days. So let's head into Q&A, whoever would like to do that. Thanks so much. Over to you. Oh, do you want me to lead the Q&A or do you want to, Cheyenne?
Either way, anybody have any questions for Kerry? She's always so incredibly value giving. Any specific questions around networking? I want you to run a whole workshop webinar series around the project management of events. That's what I want. That's
Writing it.
Renee.
Go ahead, Angela.
Muted. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you for spending so much time with me when Cheyenne connected us. I'm looking forward to going to some of the weekend events, and they sound incredible.
Awesome. Yeah, and they can be virtual or in person, and that's the beauty. I mean, today we're virtual, and yet I feel connected to every single one of you. I can't give you a hug, which is my thing that I do in person, but you know, it's just a different experience. But thank goodness for Zoom, right? It's the silver lining of the COVID era that we are now very comfortable with these meetups, which otherwise we wouldn't be able to do. Yeah, it's great to connect with each of you. Some of you I haven't met, but if you haven't connected with me before, please do reach out, follow me on LinkedIn or on any of those channels that mentioned. And it's just, I get lit up when I do this work. I wouldn't do it otherwise. And I think all of us are in business because we want to do the work that lights us up. For me, gathering women, bringing women together so that they have visibility. And like I said, the love and shove, pushing us into those leadership roles so that we also start creating events we want to see. Ashley?
It's not really a question, but sorry, more of like a experience, which kind of it's frustrating because like I went to this chamber breakfast and I really like worked hard at like talking to each person at my little table that I didn't know and you know getting to know each person. And then one of the people there, and I won't say the name, but it was a guy in marketing. Yeah, Cheyenne knows. And I followed up with him because he asked me to follow up. And then he comes at me in this email about how like basically being competitive, right? And when the whole thing was that we were gonna collaborate, right? Like and I said, you know, basically I responded and was like, I think it's beautiful when people can collaborate. And here's another person that I've collaborated with, and he is like one of the best storytellers. And now we're doing amazing things. Yeah, Brian Lavender and I are collaborating. And this other marketing person, I was like, you said you want to collaborate. Like I was just saying, if you want to collaborate, let's have coffee. And the ironic thing is that he came at me and was saying things like, you know, that he is such a better storyteller and things like
Wow.
that. And I responded and read, which I'm always going to do this, always. And I was like, well, one tip that I'm going to give you free of charge is your, and I spelled them out because he wrote it wrong. You are going to come at me and say that you are a better writer and communicator.
Being in, you know what, even that, like being in safe spaces, and there's not those, I'm not saying there's ever a perfect networking event either, but you know, finding your space where the people in the room want to support other people. Again, that goes to the leader who is leading that group is, and what is the spirit, what is being spoken from the stage or the podium or whatever. You set the tone as the leader. So Ashley, I encourage you to go out and you can start your own marketing networking events and bring those people together and
Yeah.
rock their world. Kat, I think we have time for one more comment. Go ahead, or question.
So just thank you, Kerry, because I've had to sort of pivot due to a loss of event space and I kind of withdrew. Anyways, to make a long story short, I am seriously thinking of gearing up um online, but I've been hesitant and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, yes, it's winter, we want to stay home. Why am I not doing this, giving women something to do? So thank you for that. And my question is kind of how crazy can I get? Because I meet a lot of women in networking and I know they often say, well, collaborate with someone who will go with you, but I mean, look at goat yoga, for example. Like, who would have thought of that? Like I saw someone, I have to save the chat, but like does automotive. What if I combined with that person and we did a talk for midlife women on car care for winter or something? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like how crazy can you get?
You can, someone put in the chat, as crazy as you want to be, I'd sign up right now, right? So it's it's like combining, sometimes it's the combination of two unrelated fields that creates that special space in between that nobody has done it. And what are we all craving right now is something original. If I see one more movie sequel, I'm going to just scream. It's like we want some original ideas out there, and we have them. We just need to be bold enough to put them out there. And I love that, Kat. You're going to be amazing. Cheyenne, can I ask one thing? Can I do a quick group photo now that we're all on this screen?
Totally.
this-
Yeah.
look at this
And don't forget to
beautiful
drop your
group.
link for the mastermind waitlist for anyone that's interested.
Oh yeah, sure. I will. I see you adjusting. We are all tiny little squares on this. That's the good news. I'm seeing us all as little squares. I'm very happy with that right now. So okay, I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, and I'm not gonna say one, but that's the picture. Okay, everyone, just look at your cameras. Love you all. Okay, 3, 2. Love it. I'm going to post it here. Oh, yes. So I'll put into the chat. If anybody is interested, you know, if you're involved with WeCan, that we do. Oh, no, now I'm going to do that. Shoot. That we do the masterminds through the Queen's University. But anybody who is interested in getting involved with any of my other masterminds, there's a wait list for that spring one, which is right there. And that runs April to June. We do 3-month masterminds. For those of you who are involved with WeCan, we do 6. And people are like, what is WeCan? That's Queen's University. It's a WeCan project, and I'm not promoting that today, but if you want to find out, email me or Cheyenne. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly, Kerry, you know, I am so deeply appreciative of everything that you do. Thank you for bringing your energy. Kerry is definitely a like, let's take action. She's been nudging me to do events for a while. And what you presented today really clarified for me. Activities for me, I'm a learner and I'm a trainer. I like learning and training. And I have some things coming up for those of us in Quinte West where I have partnered with some pretty cool organizations who are going to facilitate me to be able to do exactly that. So events are where it's at. Definitely look at how you can put your oar in and create the type of events you want. Thank you, Kerry. This was amazing. Tomorrow we have Marta, which is hilarious. She came up in conversation. I love the networks and the circles. It's incredible how many of us have interwoven with each other. Marta's going to talk about some subconscious blocks. We're going to go into some of the inner works, and it's going to be amazing. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, everybody who's been here. Thank you for the chat. It was amazing. I had a lot of fun in there. See you guys tomorrow. If you can't catch the replay, have a great day, ladies.
Take care.